So today I'm going to share with you one powerful question that will change your codependent relationships forever. So in this video, you're going to learn how you can start to make healthier relationships even when you're still struggling with codependency. But if you're new, my name's Michelle Ferris. I'm a psychotherapist and I love helping people create relationships that work. So a codependent relationship is based on an unhealthy dependency where you try really hard to be liked. You're always looking for ways to help, rescue, or fix the other person or the situation so that you can get love in return. But as a result, you end up not having a strong sense of self and you tend to lose yourself in your relationships. If this is you, say me too in the comments. I'm right there with you. This video is going to help. So there's two things that often happen when we're in codependent relationships. We either don't know who we are because we're so hyper-focused on others, or we're afraid we're not enough and are going to get rejected, which makes it really hard to have healthy relationships. So here's the thing. Being yourself is the foundation of having healthy relationships. And for people who struggle with codependency, this is really a big challenge. When you can fully show up as you are, your likes, your dislikes, your emotions, your opinions, that's a sign of health. That's a sign that you can actually create a healthy connection with someone else because you already accept yourself as you are instead of always looking for it in other people. But when you're struggling with codependency, this often feels impossible. I know it was for me in my early recovery. I was constantly looking for ways to please and help because I didn't think I had any other value. You might feel the need to always say yes and be available, even when it hurts you. Or hide your true feelings to keep the peace. Or pretend to be something you're not just to avoid conflict or potential rejection. These are all really common signs of codependency. I've been at this for years and I know how hard it is to really embrace your authentic self. But let me tell you, that is what made a huge difference in the health of my relationships. So let's get to this question. Here it is. Are you able to be yourself in your relationships? This is such a huge turning point because it's either a heck yeah or a, oh, I'm not sure, or definitely no. If you're hesitating, it's a no. Because if you can fully be yourself with that other person, that means you feel safe enough to be your authentic self. And this is why it's such a huge benchmark in codependent recovery, because I can see in my relationships which ones feel the safest and which ones I show up in a healthier way. Because the relationships that we show up where we're hiding our true selves, that's where we have to work on our underlying issues of codependency still, because we're either afraid or we're just not comfortable in our own skin. And all of that is just part of the recovery process. So why is this question so life-changing to your relationship? Because it's going to tell you whether or not your relationships are actually improving. Because if you feel safe, if you feel authentic, then your relationships are going to reflect that. They're going to be more honest and mutually supportive versus a codependent relationship where we're hiding our feelings and we're pretending to be something we're not because we want their approval. So it's important to remember that codependency can happen in any relationship, not just with our romantic partners. They can happen with our children, whether they're adults or small. They can happen definitely with family members and go back to childhood patterns where we learn to please others and negate ourselves. They can also happen with friendship, with coworkers, with a boss, anybody that you find yourself relying too much on for their approval because you don't know how to give it to yourself. So let's talk more about this question about are you able to be yourself in a relationship and what it actually looks like. So the first thing is you're able to feel your feelings without apology or feeling guilty. You're at ease. You feel calm in that relationship. Instead of second guessing yourself all the time, you trust that you're safe and you can speak up for yourself without fear of abuse. Also, when you're able to be yourself in your relationships, you stop people-pleasing and you're not afraid to set boundaries because you can be your authentic self without fear of retaliation. You also attract people who value you for who you are, not what you give to them. These are all signs of healthy relationships, which is why that being yourself is such a core component in transforming codependent relationships. So how do you start? Here are some codependent patterns I want you to look out for. 1, I want you to think about your interactions. Maybe you just had coffee with someone. How comfortable were you? Were you able to be yourself? If yes, great. Why? If not, why? I want you to get to the reason for what worked and what isn't working, because this question is going to help you assess the health of your relationship. Next, I want you to think about your patterns. Who are those certain people you don't feel comfortable with, or you feel more on guard, like if you say the wrong thing, they're going to pounce you? Those are the people I want you to really be mindful of, because those are the people you most likely need to consider detaching from and setting stronger boundaries, or even spending less time with them. Because if you don't feel safe in a relationship, that's a major red flag. That to me is the deal breaker. If I don't feel safe, I don't spend much time with them, if any, because I need to feel safe in order to enjoy my relationships. And I'm assuming you do too. Another thing I want you to do is start taking small steps towards positive change, like sharing your opinion or a feeling about something that you don't normally do. Something small, something doable, to test that relationship and see how safe it feels, to start being more authentic. And the easiest way to do that is to start sharing your likes and dislikes and your opinions. Something small so that the other person, 1, gets a sense of who you really are, and 2, how it feels for you to start practicing being more authentic in your relationships. Because we can't have healthy relationships if we're pretending to be someone we're not. If you relate to this, say me too in the comments. Been there, done that. I totally get it. So another thing I want you to ask yourself, if you find that you can't be yourself in your relationships, what is it that is preventing you from being more authentic? Is it because you don't know who you are and you don't know your likes and dislikes because you tend to focus too much on other people's needs and not your own? Or is it that there are certain traits in that other person that you find threatening, that you find make you feel unsafe? Maybe they have a history of yelling or blaming you, or they're narcissistic and it always has to be about them. Those are really important red flags that I want you to highlight. But the good news is eventually, if you stay in codependency recovery, is pretending gets old, and eventually you're not going to want to do it anymore. It's going to be way too painful. And this is your chance to start practicing being more yourself. So that's the sign that you want to start being more authentic, because you're tired of pretending. You're tired of going with the flow with what everybody else wants, because you're finally at the point in your recovery where you want to honor what you want. And that's what's really exciting. So the next step I want you to do is I want you to go watch my video on improving self-esteem in codependency recovery. Thanks so much.